Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then available on demand. And we're available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple Television, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Wednesday, January 18th, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. This evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio models of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ plus community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 37 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, let's welcome anchor Dino Mosquera. He joined the Miami Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in the 90s and now serves on the Outshine Film Festival Board of Directors. He is now the screening committee chairman, selecting films for one of America's most important LGBTQ plus film festivals. Welcome, Dino.
Thank you, Al. And about the film festival, let me tell you, this Friday we are having a film at 7 p.m. at the Bell Cosper Cinema at the University of Miami. It's called Close, and it's from Belgium. It's one of the front runners for the best international film at the Oscars this year. Fantastic story, very it's very human and very deep for the youth, the gay youth. So I highly recommend it. Outshinefilm.com. So with that being said, let's welcome John Hayden. A journalist for 28 years, he now works for several outlets, including South Florida Gay News, as a reporter and community editor, covering politics, entertainment, and local events directly impacting the LGBTQ plus community. John's interviewed everyone from presidents to Oscar winners and has been on more red carpets than he can count. After tonight's show, he's doing the chef tasting menu at Long John Silver's. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much. I cannot wait to get my hands on some hush puppies. Now, let's welcome anchor Dale Stine. With a background in music and the arts, he is a well-known photographer, famous for his photographs of internationally acclaimed DJs, drag personas, and other entertainers, including our very own FayWhat, who somehow has the night off. He is presently the director of music ministry at Unity on the Bay, as well as moderator of South Florida's largest LGBTQ plus Facebook group, Miami Gay List, which can be found on Instagram as @GayListOfficial. And if it's not official, it's just a list of gays, and the Proud Boys are already compiling that. An activist with multiple LGBTQ plus organizations, Dale is also currently vice chair of Miami Beach's Human Rights Committee. Good evening, Dale.
Thank you, John. So in this case, it would be more like Faye where?
Oh.
And just as a little...
I say, Faye who?
And just as a little teaser, Faye and I did a new photo shoot just a couple weeks ago. So
a nude photo?
No.
Wow.
No.
All right. Which one was nude, you or her?
It was in, we did it in a nudist colony. So, no, so just, good Lord. These people really commandeer and usurp your entire, soundbite.
Thank you.
And I have two words for all of you. Let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro. An inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame, Gregg is the author of 8 books, including his latest, Fear of Muses. An entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and music reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ+ and mainstream publications and websites, His movie review column called Screensaver can be found in South Florida Gay News, San Francisco's Bay Area Reporter, RottenTomatoes.com, and more. Good evening, Gregg.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight. And this evening, we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Wednesday, January 18th, 2023. Happy National Winnie the Pooh Day from Queer News Tonight's resident Eeyore.
Got it. All right, well, let's begin by querying up trans rights. Trans Miss Universe owner gives a powerful speech at Pageant, turning pain into power.
It has been 70 years that Miss Universe organization ran by men. But now, time is up. It's the moment really for women to take the lead. Welcome to the new era of the global women's empowerment platform. Welcome to the Miss Universe organization. From now on, it's going to be ran by women, owned by trans women, for all women. For all women really around the world to celebrate the power of feminism. Diverse cultures, social inclusion, gender equality, creativity, the force for good, and of course, the beauty of humanity.
Very powerful. The 71st Miss Universe pageant concluded on Saturday in New Orleans with the current Miss USA, Arbani Gabriel, taking the crown. This iconic Miss Universe pageant featured some of the most beautiful women from all over the world. A total of 84 contestants gathered in New Orleans to compete for the coveted title of Miss Universe 2023. Harnaz Sandhu of India took home the crown last year. The women compete in 3 events: swimsuit, evening gown, and a personality interview. The highlight for many was Tabit's, and I apologize for mispronouncing it, empowering speech, her first since taking over the organization in 2022, in which she ushered in a new era. The owner of the Miss Universe franchise, Anne, as she's called, explained how she turned pain into power at the annual pageant. She purchased the Miss Universe franchise, which at one point was co-owned by Donald Trump, for $20 million in 2022 and reported at Queer News Tonight. The Thai businesswoman is also the CEO of JKN Global Group and is the founder and director of Life Inspired for Transsexual Foundation, a charity organization that advocates for transgender rights in Thailand. She is also one of the richest trans people on earth. Gabriel, the pageant's winner, said that she would demonstrate how inclusive Miss Universe is by being a transformational leader. You know, it's inspirational to me because in America, she brings this pageant, the first pageant she does, to the United States, which is important because frequently the pageant did not come to the United States or was not done in the U.S. And the first pageant in her ownership of Miss Universe is done in New Orleans. It represents in voice, in her leadership as being a trans woman, and also in representation of her speech on stage, that we take Miss Universe back and it's going to be run for and by women. And it's a very feminist message coming from a trans woman, which I think is beautiful. You contrast that to what is going on in Louisiana and in many southern states. You contrast that to the former owner of the Miss USA and Miss Universe pageant, Donald Trump, and what goes on in next door neighbors in our own state of Florida. It is a powerful moment, a powerful message, which I just think is, honestly, I just think is beautiful.
There are many things about the new format that she just bought it like 2 months ago, not long ago actually. New crown. The whole jury were women for the first time, which is very significant. There's some controversy about the winner. I'm biased. I'm gonna admit it. I think
Wait, is there this little country in South America called Venezuela?
Venezuela should have won. You can ask anyone, but every Latino will tell you, no, Colombia.
Right. No, but I did hear the most I've heard is that Venezuela. Everybody says Venezuela.
Venezuela was the first.
The most
runner-up.
I've heard.
Yeah, but you do remember you're in the United States of America.
I do, and I also acknowledge that the pageant is in the U.S. She's going to live in the U.S. for the whole year. Still, the pageant, even though the owner is Thai, is an American pageant. Just not forget that. But I do admit it's a big step that she took over, that she bought it, and because the Miss Universe had issues with trans participants. Spain sent the first trans Miss to Miss Universe 5 years ago. And there was a big scandal behind that. Not everybody was behind that. Yeah. She was beautiful. She did very well. And even today, Miss Señorita Mexico or Miss Mexico, they have said that the organizer that they don't recognize, they don't support trans participants. So there's a lot of work to be done, I think, and this is something that is falling out of grace around the world. Pageants and beauty pageants, I understand, but there is a lot of support outside of the U.S. in Latin America, particularly, and in Asia, a lot of countries, particularly Philippines and Thailand and some others, Indonesia, that are very much into the pageant.
Yeah. Dino, I'm curious, before hearing other comments to the moment of her speech, which is the focus of our news story. Pageants have fallen out of favor, you say. If that is true, I think one of the leading reasons is because the masculinity of objectifying women in this way, once upon a time, was pretty commonplace. With changes like all women being the judges and a trans woman who is a woman, trans women are women, period, full stop. Yeah. That it might change the perspective of a pageant like this, that it can be a scholarship opportunity, and it's not objectively or in a toxic way something for men to objectify women. Does this help in its changes?
I come from a country that reveres these pageants. I mean, Miss Venezuela is basically the Super Bowl of the country where everything stops. A Miss Venezuela that wins Miss Universe or gets so far, like this one did, Amanda Dudamel this year, is like a national hero. And many of them go into do big things. The candidate that lost to Hugo Chavez when he ran for president was Miss Universe. You guys knew that? Irene Saez. She won Miss Universe in 1981. She competed against him. She was the governor of a state in the country and a mayor in a district in Caracas. She did wonderful. She lives here in Miami nowadays. And she was not just beautiful, she was smart, she was career driven. She went really far. Unfortunately, she lost to him and then everything changed. But there were opportunities for these women besides TV and modeling, other stuff. But she did great things for Venezuela, and everybody recognizes that. Is that the same in other countries around the world? Probably not. But Venezuela reveres these candidates. It's very different down there. I'm not saying that, there may be certain things about the pageant that are a little too superficial. Yes, of course they are, but...
But I think, to your point, to me, this is taking ownership. The way we do it, the way we'd have done, like with the word queer or whatever. It's a bigger, grander thing, maybe, or maybe it's more similar than I'm intimating. But it's taking ownership of that, making it superficial. It's taking it and embracing it and saying, this is ours, and we're going to make it what we want it to be, as opposed to what you've let it be or what it's been up to this point.
Do you think of this as a big moment in the trans community? Her speech on Saturday night the trans community just said, "Oh my goodness, what we're watching at this moment." Do you think that was their reaction? I asked because I didn't see a lot.
I think it's important, but it's not really going to resonate beyond the trans community. But at this state that we're in right now, just seeing yourself represented in this may be enough. But it's just not
like Jeopardy.
It's not just the hammer that would come down and have resonated even as recently as 10 or 15 years ago.
Is she like one of the richest women?
Yeah,
That's
but
amazing.
that is amazing. But
Yeah, but the thing is that the pageants in general, from my opinion, at least in America, aren't a cultural touchstone anymore like they used to be. So I think that's going to blunt the impact that this has. But I'm still happy for it. And if pageants are going to survive in some form, then it's this type of transformation, this type of feminism that's going to help write a new chapter or even a whole new volume for pageants.
I do think it will do it for trans candidates. I do think that it will change things in the future for other countries, not just Spain. There will be other countries now that will consider sending their, participants that are trans to the Miss Universe pageant. We'll see.
At least put them on equal footing.
Right, exactly right. It's recognition.
Absolutely. And now we queer up South Florida gay news, why pronouns matter, and how we can get them right. He, him, she, her, they, them. A big deal is constantly being made over these little words. In this week's SFGN, online now and on stands tomorrow, my colleague Denise Royal looks at the problems people have with pronouns and an initiative to get them right. The forum, My Pronouns Are, will be held tomorrow at Victory Black Box Theater at 1409 Northwest Sistrunk Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale. Pronouns aren't something most people will ever have to think about, but being misgendered is a gut punch day after day, multiple times a day. Some people do it viciously. Many people, including myself, do it accidentally. But we're trying to learn. The event is being put on by Ujima Men's Collective Brothers Project. Ujima's executive director, Lorenzo Robertson, told SFGN, quote, "I feel the use of pronouns is so misunderstood because we have been taught a binary existence and experience. We now live in an environment where many people are understanding they do not have to ascribe to the binary paradigm of the past. We have options and opportunities to discover and explore other ways to express who we are as a person regardless of their gender," end quote. The forum is at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, and you can read more on SFGN online now and on stands tomorrow. And it's heartening to see because what's coming out of Tallahassee is completely different than what's coming out of Broward County and to a greater extent, South Florida in general. Last year, the Broward Sheriff's Office had a community meeting in Wilton Manor. One of the primary topics of conversation was pronouns and why they matter, because we all know that many people are misgendered. Trans are more likely to be victims of crime, and people don't even know that their loved ones have been hurt because they're dead named and things like this. It's a very important thing. It seems small. Like I say, the words are small, but the impact of using them correctly is very important.
Yeah. I was, this is an interesting topic to me also. I was just having a conversation with my sister-in-law who lives in a small city and small town in North Carolina. And she does lead some girl groups for her church and various things in the community. She's very involved. And many of the girls are teenagers. And they are identifying, she's accustomed to non-binary and they, he, she, them, et cetera, but now she's trying to understand how to embrace people identifying as trees and rocks. And so she's getting a whole new thing happening now. So she called me and had a conversation. She said, this is beyond just pronouns. I know I'm expanding the conversation, but it reminds me that we just had this conversation just last week. How am I to incorporate this? How does this person want to be identified? Tree, rock, I understand pronouns, but the conversation is expanding, and I don't know where that's going to lead us, but I find it very interesting.
I think it should be, and it is good that it's happening in the gay community as well. We need to educate ourselves. It's just not a given that because we're gay, we immediately start using pronouns correctly. We don't, and I put myself in the same situation. Yeah, and we're not doing a proper, work to learn this, and it's important. We need to be respectful of others.
Well, I think this forum is a really good idea because it gives people the opportunity to hear from directly from the people in the community who are living this experience and being misgendered on a regular basis, and this can now somehow be rectified. I think that's a good thing.
You know, it's funny to me, for me personally, it's just a personal consumption. The pronouns are not that big of a deal. I really don't think that they're that big of a deal. The one thing that I do think in this conversation that is really important and is a big deal is that the pronouns become important to the person that consumes the representation of the pronoun. And what that means is if the pronoun is important to the person in how they would like to be referred and reflected, then we should give them the respect to honor their request. And what we see, I think, often in our fight on pronouns is, again, and it seems to be an age-old conversation that I continue to talk about, of older privileged white men, and maybe gay men too, is that we don't like the conversation of pronouns, and I think it's very seated in the fact that we don't want to give you respect. Mm-hmm. We don't want to give the gay community respect. We don't want to give women respect. We don't want to give the trans community respect. We don't want to respect you. And if that is true, and I very frequently think that that is the real underlying argument to the use of pronouns, then we understand why they don't like to do it. And they're just guising up the entire argument and debate over a deflection of what the real issue is. I don't want to because I don't respect you.
Do you think it's the same way that men resisted when women wanted to be called Ms. as opposed to Miss?
I think it's exactly the same.
And again, it's in disrespect of women.
It's disrespect. Yeah. And at the end of the day, if somebody wants to be referred to how they want to refer to, who is it for me to say you can't?
Right.
It's not about me. It's about the person that wants.
But it is a process of learning and
it's an educational process completely. And unfortunately, I listened last night, just on the way home from the show, I listened to a beautiful NPR conversation about baby boomers. And there's a new book out called Okay Boomer, and basically how you have never given me respect in my life. It was a bullseye because the observation is the older an American is, the whiter you are, the less diverse you are. You look at Gen Zers, the number of multicultural diversity in Gen Z is 5 times that of baby boomers. And clearly it's important to them in embracement, diversity, respect. Baby boomers are this face over and over and over again, and we don't want to, and we don't feel like we need to respect you.
Some people may not, but I mean,
right, and
I mean, the diversity is what is exquisite and beautiful in humans.
This is the heart of how you explain to Donald Trump and his role in America.
Okay, let's now queer up the worldview. Israel's new government says we are not going to cancel gay pride. It's been less than 3 weeks since Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu formed the most right-wing and religious government in Israel history, but he has already faced mounting criticism from within Israel and the diaspora. In the last week, tens of thousands gathered to protest against the government's proposal to overhaul the judicial system, which critics say threaten Israel's democracy. President Isaac Herzog also voiced his concerns. He said, quote, "We are in the grasp of a profound disagreement that is tearing our nation apart. This conflict worries me deeply, and it worries many across Israel and the Jewish diaspora," end of quote. Against the backdrop of such changes, the LGBTQ plus community of Israel is also worried. According to National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, advisor Yishai Fleischer, quote, "No one wants to be homophobic or racist. We want to protect Jews in the land of Israel. Ben-Gvir doesn't want to cut out secular people or LGBTQ plus people. We seek to be a responsible government. Gay pride may not be everyone's cup of tea. but it is not our agenda to cancel it. We want to defend all Israelis, no matter who, but also to defend those Israelis that don't want to see secular coercion or to deprive those who believe in their traditional Torah tradition. And that's what's kept the Jewish people alive all these years. End of quote. This is, populism. It's the populism, and it exists in Israel as well. I mean, again, probably Netanyahu doesn't voice that right now, but he like Bolsonaro, is very much a Trump look-alike, act-alike, and I would not be surprised if now that he takes again government, he goes again for that. He has, I don't know why they keep going back to Netanyahu. This is like the sixth term. Right, so they can form coalition, and then he keeps coming back, and then brings back all these very radical right-wingers to government in Israel. And again, our community and many other communities within Israel, like the minorities, the Ethiopians and all communities that have been already, they have voiced their, intention to go after them. So this is populism, and it's plain simple, and is at risk. So I think that this is the time with American Jews and, exercise their voice and power, and then just bring up our, concern about this.
I think that I will take Netanyahu or his lackeys at their word, because he doesn't trade Israel politics. And first off, the Knesset, their Congress, is very small. It's only like 130 some seats. And this is like their fifth election in like 3 or 4 years, because they just can't get a coalition to stick together. But the fear that politics in Israel trades on is a religious fear of your neighbor, because they are surrounded, of course, by Egypt and Syria and Lebanon. And so I really think that destroying the gays is at the bottom of their list, because they trade on the fear of their neighbors. And the fact is, their moderates, their purple seats swing very often left and right.
And remember, one of the reasons, the dog whistle that they're blowing is the extremist clerics in Israel are saying, we don't want a gay pride to be authorized. We don't want it in public. We want gay pride to be canceled, whether it be Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. We want it to be canceled. And that's what the president is really addressing, is whether or not that's going to happen.
Never mind that it brings in huge amounts of revenue. It's enormous.
And Netanyahu does have sort of a history of LGBT support. I can't even believe I'm saying that, but there is some that. But there is that idea that that extremism is something that we're getting a little taste of here, that religious extremism. A little. And it's something we should be aware of.
A couple of points before we move on that I think are important. Israel does not mean the American Jewish community. They're two different communities. Let's not forget, and I know I think likely we would agree with my observation, the American Jewish community has been among the most supportive politically and in voice communities, religious communities in America for the LGBTQ community since the Stonewall riots in 1969. So what we're watching in Israel is not the American Jewish community, because we have unparalleled support in that community. The other thing that I think is important is not to wag a finger or a tongue to President Herzog in Israel, but diversity and tolerance is something that Israel would want to remind itself over and over and over again, because Israel's place in the world has been an uphill slog and fight every step of the way. Precarious. And the reason why the American Jewish community supports the LGBTQ community is they understand the plight we've gone through. The LGBTQ community understands the plight Israel has gone through. And now you have these very extremist right-wingers saying, but we don't need that anymore. Caution, very great caution to you, because you've lived on the diversity embracement. And the last thing that I want to make a connection on in Netanyahu's problem. I am no fan of Netanyahu, but he is also not Donald Trump. And Netanyahu is one who has tried to tamper this anti-LGBT thing going on in Israel. But the one thing that I at least give him credit for in terms of voice, Netanyahu is Speaker McCarthy, because they really are in the same plight. McCarthy could not get elected Speaker. It took 15 votes to get elected Speaker. And ultimately, we watched the debacle in our U.S. House of Representatives, which is exactly the debacle that went on for Netanyahu in Israel. You have to ultimately subside to the radical crazy. It exists in Israel. And to get the government formed, he had to accept them. Just like McCarthy brings in Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert and Matt Gaetz. You bring the
They're on committees now. They're on the super committees.
Exactly. And it was the only way the government could be formed in the House of Representatives. If for no other reason, I have some heartfelt sympathy for Netanyahu because we watched it in America. Now, make sure you do the right thing. Make sure.
Well, so next, let's queer up courts. Major Supreme Court case of trans asylum over imminent danger. Yesterday, the Supreme Court heard the appeal of a 33-year-old transgender woman from Guatemala who is seeking asylum in a case her attorney calls life or death. Estrella Santos Zacarias, whose claims of gender violence and discrimination were rejected by American immigration officials, was deported to Mexico in 2019, where she has faced ongoing health and safety challenges, according to a sworn affidavit from her reviewed by ABC News. As per her affidavit, most recently, she was beaten at a bus stop by 3 people, and months prior, she was bludgeoned unconscious at her workplace. Her legal team is seeking a federal court review of an immigration judge's ruling that she had not demonstrated adequate evidence of likely future persecution and therefore didn't qualify for asylum. The Biden administration argues in court documents that federal judges shouldn't get involved in the case, primarily because Santos Zacarias failed to exhaust other administrative appeals available to her at the time. Immigration authorities also say they should generally have broad discretion over their decisions, free from the possibility of unnecessary judicial interference. While Santos Zacarias' case hinges on technical arguments over jurisdiction and immigration procedure, its outcome could have significant implications for thousands of asylum seekers hoping to challenge removal orders in court. I'm perplexed by several components of this case. I don't quite understand why the Biden administration is pulling back and not supporting. I mean, I'm sure there are many parts of it I don't understand, but I don't understand why the Biden administration is not supporting her asylum.
Okay, well, let me go into the weeds here with all of us real quick. So everybody in America thinks there are 2 sets of courts. There's the federal courts, and then there's the courts in your state. But there's also essentially a third layer of judiciary that's not officially judiciary, and that's administrative courts. And there's, FBI, or not FBI, Social Security administrative courts. There's Child Protective Services, these types of courts. And basically what I'm reading from this says that immigration authorities say they should have generally broad discretion over decisions free from the possibility of unnecessary judicial interference. So what they're saying is, give us a free hand. We'll follow the rules or whatever's come down from Washington, but we want to rule out the possibility of the courts coming in and stepping on us. And that is basically setting up little fiefdoms all along the border. So any idiot who's in charge of his particular office can throw people back essentially at will. There's more to it, but that's essentially what this comes down to. So the U.S. is trying to avoid a precedent. While I'm sure the Biden administration supports this particular case in general, they're trying to, this would, depending on how this is ruled, could be a complete sea change in how power is distributed in this
so you're saying
along the
the
border.
Biden administration is making a generalization kind of decision.
That from what I've read of this article and several other things that I read on it, yeah.
But it's not Article 42. It got nothing to do with that.
No, this is really a power struggle. This is a power struggle between ICE or DHS or whoever sheriff on the border versus the court's ability to come in and supervise and say, no, you can't do this, or yes, you can do this.
You see, what concerns me about this is that even though she's from Guatemala, and she probably was not sent back to Guatemala, she was sent back to Mexico, where a lot of these people that are not able to cross the border are basically being retained for years, some of them. And in Mexico, a country that, sometimes we applaud because they have, even gay marriage is not legal. This continues to happen, especially to in Mexico, all over Mexico, where they kill them and they're not protected. So this should be taken into consideration when you deny asylum, or at least the claim of political asylum to somebody like her. So I just don't understand. She goes back to Mexico and then she gets attacked in Mexico, not in Guatemala.
Wasn't that story last night about the gay couple that was sprayed with the holy water by the woman?
Yeah, that was in Mexico, in Toluca.
Right.
Yeah, in Mexico, right.
So now we're going to queer up entertainment. The new show For the Love of DILFs features Mr. Gay World USA Tony Ardolino and FayWhat show guest Tikas.
Sexy, fun, ready to show you a good time. They're himbos. Confident, mature, ready to show you the ropes. They're daddies. Welcome to For the Love of DILFs. An epic romance is about to unfold as two groups of singles hunt for love.
He's my hope. This fine-ass man is literally everything I'm looking for.
I would love to see what's underneath the shorts.
I'm just looking for love in all the wrong places.
Oh, and did we mention it's hosted by Stormy Daniels?
Now I'm gonna put my hand in my box and see who is going home.
At the end of this emotional journey, only one couple will be voted most likely to succeed and win a $10,000 investment into their relationship.
And I know one day, I'm gonna find that guy. I know, I'm ready to be in a relationship, and I'm sorry.
Do you go with older guys normally, or what's your...
I do.
No, not the forehead kiss. We start with the forehead. Oh, okay.
Growing up as a gay kid, you don't see two princes falling in love. Maybe my fairy tale doesn't look like the cliche fairy tales that I've been reading, but everyone deserves to live happily ever after.
I've kind of been someone who hasn't ever really felt embraced by the queer community because I didn't fit into the box. I'm grateful just for this, regardless of if I find someone or not.
But
there's always a but. Especially in this house.
I have some bad news.
It won't be as easy as it sounds. Because in the DILF mansion, things get real.
Bitch, if you gonna be shady, just do
I didn't mean it to be shady.
What the just happened?
I'm done, dude. I wish you all the best.
Bobby's crying in the bedroom. What you said, it wasn't really cool. You are baby daddy of the season.
Just when you thought you knew how dating shows worked.
What?
This isn't any love story. This is For the Love of DILFs. Will you be mine?
A new queer dating show has arrived. Get ready to be obsessed. The new show, produced by OutTV and viewable on Apple TV and Roku, For the Love of DILFs, pairs up two groups of gay men, daddies and himbos, as they compete to find love. Oh, and a cat prize, of course. Only one couple will be voted to be most likely to succeed and win a $10,000 prize as an investment in their future relationship. Presiding over all the dramas is Stormy Daniels. Yes, the Stormy Daniels, who will live in the house with the contestants and serve not just as MC, but also as a relationship advisor. Because, of course, when you put a group of daddies and himbos in one house, you know there's going to be chaos. These men entered the house not just for a sexy time, but perhaps to discover real love, and some just might find it. The series will follow them through the show and explore the participants' dynamics. It's also filled with laughs and explores the singles' genuine emotions from first kisses to blistering breakups. We can't wait to see how it all turns out. What excites us more is that it features Mr. Gay World USA, Tony Ardolino, and adult performer Alex Tikas, who will appear on the FayWhat show on January 30th, the day before For the Love of DILFs premieres. Wait, how is this entertaining? but seriously, let's hope that the DILFs cast members will have nicer things to say about their experience than, as we recall from yesterday, Dorian Renaud from MTV's Real Friends of WeHo had to say about his experience.
Yeah.
You know, I just think there's real love that's going to happen here. I'm not a fan of Bachelor or Bachelorette.
That you're not going to watch every second of this.
Oh, I will, because you've called me jaded before, but my God, this is renewing my faith in real love, and I cannot. Oh God, I just can't wait.
Well, based on the trailer, it didn't look overly scripted, but who knows? I mean, you know.
Are these sugar daddies? No.
Well,
I mean, is that part
that's
of the deal?
implication. Well, just daddies. It didn't say sugar daddies.
It doesn't say sugar daddies.
Wait, are you only interested if they're sugar?
No, because I could see a better show there.
Are you
if there
applying
was
for
a
the second
sugar
season?
daddy.
Applying for the second season already?
As a daddy or as a himbo?
The sugar daddy in the show is Stormy Daniels, because after what she did with her attorney, she's doing okay.
Right.
You know, I just have to tell you, you know, Greg makes the joke. Last night we reported a second story on the Real Housewives of WeHo. That's what it was called, right? The Real Housewives.
Real friends.
Housewives, friends.
Andy Cohen's on the line for you.
Right.
With the trademark lawsuit.
Right. Okay, a little column A, a little column B. Real Housewives of WeHo.
Real friends of WeHo.
Okay, all right.
You really can.
Thank you. All right. So, the Real Housewives of WeHo is a situation where it's ridiculous and embarrassing, because MTV, in a big budget fashion, has created a disaster of Jersey Shore in West Hollywood, or Siesta Key in West Hollywood. I'm from Siesta Key. MTV has created a disaster here under the banner of reality television. I applaud Out TV for doing this. I honestly do, because while we might not think it's the best television in the world, we deserve in our community the exact same kind of dating shows that are out there that are wildly successful, and people enjoy watching it. You know, they're getting ready to do, I just saw it, and the guy's pretty cute. They're doing the 137th season of The Bachelor on ABC, and everybody's gonna love it. And this is that, and it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek of that, and bring it on, because I think Out TV should be applauded for doing something like this, because we want to be a part of the storyline. I am totally serious. First, congratulations, Out TV. I think you did a really brilliant thing here. And DILFs, come on. You know, it's really smart. It's just cute.
It's total kitsch. It's kitsch, but
and they're in on the joke.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want to say is about Tony Ardolino. He is cute as all get out. Now, whether this love story with Alex Tikas is true or not, I don't really care. It'll be fun to watch. And Tony Ardolino, has been, you know, we broadcast him when he competed for Mr. Gay World USA, and he competed in South Africa. I've interviewed him many times. He rode in our Stonewall Pride Parade here in Wilton Manors. I love that he is part of it, and this storyline. I'm going to watch every minute of it with a box of popcorn
and a poppers and a lube.
Or maybe a jar of DILF pickles.
And I'm gonna be just like in RuPaul Drag Race days. I'm gonna be texting John and go, John, can you believe that? It's gonna be so much fun. It's gonna be so much fun. And one last thing, Alex is getting in bed with FayWhat. He's interviewing on the FayWhat show January 30th. And Antonio, I'm so sorry because I hope it's not real. Because she's going to steal your man away. I'm just telling you, right? Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about DILFs. I assure you we're going to be talking about it.
Right. Yeah. DILFs. Right.
Let's hope it does better than Prince Charming, just say that. So next, we're proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. every week.
I'm Gabe Salazar, Artistic Director of the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ+ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show.
If our community is important to you, then share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ+ news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire, dramatic pause, TV.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ+ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broad world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ+ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ+ reporters, the anchors at Queer News Tonight, including Dino Mosquera, John Hayden, Dale Stine, and Gregg Shapiro. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ+ world, we wish you
Good night.